Hey everyone. So I just heard about this, and I can't not talk about it because are you fucking serious, dude? Look. Politics is one thing. We can argue about politics until the cows come home. I don't care. Okay, left wing, right wing. Boop, boop. Okay, fuck that shit. I don't care right now. This I don't care what side of politics he is. This is bollocks. I've not read the rest of the article, I've just read the headline. We're going to go into it. We'll hopefully see that it's different and we've not just travelled back in time and just erased everything again. Because what makes it worse is he's a gay dude. And doing this in general is fucking backwards. The idea that you can pray the gay away. Get fucked. Secondly, the fact that he's a gay guy himself, it's that extra level of fucking gross, you know? Okay, let's read it. I don't know, like, this is the New York Post. This is the link I saw. Is it a credible source? I don't know. It's a media source, so probably not. But if there's any truth to this, I'm annoyed. Here we go. Right-wing cultural... Also, I've been up all night, couldn't sleep. So if I'm a bit groggy, I apologise. And I'm also not the best at reading in general, so I apologise for that in general. But let's get going. Right-wing cultural critic... I'm surprised they didn't call him far right, or was it? Is it far right? It is far right, yeah. But you know, right-wing cultural critic Yiannopoulos came out last week as ex-gay, and now preparing to open a controversial conversion therapy facility in Florida. The Post has learned. An interview with the Post, the former Breitbart news editor revealed his plans to launch the repetitive something therapy clinic to help other people go through the same journey that I'm on myself. Despite the lack of data showing effectiveness of the exercise, it's literally just fuck you for the way you were born, fuck you for the way you were born, hate yourself for no concernable reason, hate yourself for no concernable reason, ignore this perfectly natural and not at all harmful or disgusting part of you, and praise Jesus. That's totally real. That's what this is. And I thought we abandoned this shit in like the fucking 90s, but apparently we've got to continue it because we never learn. We just go around in circles. I'm sorry, this shit pisses me off. It really does. Like, I railed against religion growing up, man. I hated it. I like religion. Okay, members of my family are religious, and I've never had any issues with their religion. They're religious. That's it. This is the kind of religion I can't fucking stand. This authoritarian, fucking hateful piece of shit. And I've mentioned in arguments many times before that growing up, the right wing were a bunch of authoritarian, hateful busybodies. And the left is guilty of that a lot these days. But this is like a fucking time portal. This is what it was like. And it... Anyway... asked in what sense he is ex-gay, Yiannopoulos told the Post that he is an ongoing process of trying to reorientate his homosexuality, but for now he is in a stage of abstinence and enjoys using the term to troll his critics. Ex-gay is a silly expression, but it has the virtues of slotting into a print headline neatly and absolutely enraging the opposition. Celebrity is a modest and achievable middle-term goal. Celibacy is a modest and achievable middle-term goal. Naturally, in the end, my aspiration will be to take it all away, he said. Are you just doing this for relevancy again? Look, I found this guy kind of funny. You know, he was basically gay Trump. He was an obnoxious asshole with the added benefit of a few, like, embodying a few, you know, gay, bitchy gay stereotypes. He was an entertaining fellow. I did tend not to agree with what he said, unless it was talking about social justice warriors and those kind of people. But he was funny. This isn't. And if this is just for a troll, still fuck you. I'm sorry. This isn't a funny troll to me. Some people might love it, but I just... Describing what he called a Christian Renaissance. Fuck, I hope not. Occurring in the US, Yiannopoulos said fundraising for the effort was taking off considerably, citing a backlash against establishment LGBTQ political activism. Look, man, I can't stand the how can I put this where it doesn't sound like I'm shitting over the LGBT itself? I can't stand the people who use the LGBT as a shield to push their authoritarian, hateful, bigoted shit. And a lot of people within the LGBT cannot stand that shit either. There's a lot of reasonable people, and all that shit has done is push progression back fucking years, and given ammunition to pieces of shits like you. That's all that shit has done. Right? I can't stand that, but no, just because I can't stand the authoritarian, hateful bigots on this side doesn't mean that I also that I suddenly can stand the authoritarian, hateful bigots on the other side. I'm sorry, no, fuck you. This guy's a living embodiment of everything the people on the left who I argue with, claims everyone on the right is. And is the exact kind of piece of shit that I argue with on the right. It's... this has been the easiest thing to raise money for I've ever done, which is terrifying, quite frankly. There is an enormous demand for this among the people who believe they've been led astray by... it sounds like a silly call. It sounds silly to call it this, but the gay establishment. Oh, fuck you. The gay establishment. I think part of this, like, I could understand if you said feminist establishment, because it has become like a secular cult at this point, a secular religion, and I hate that for the exact same reason I hate this shit coming out of more established old religions. I think part of that is the renaissance of religious, socially conservative kind of reactionary politics among noisy young conservatives. He explained, adding that he has people who are kind of like DMing me now to ask, where did I send the F-King, the fucking check, get me in your program. Asked about concerns over the political harm to gay youth, Yiannopoulos dismissed these fears as merely the product of the practice having a bad rep. You are literally telling people that their innate you are telling people that they have been born wrong, that they have a disease that needs to be cured with fucking religion. Like, they have a disease that needs to be replaced with your disease. I'm sorry, but no, fuck you. That is not something we need normalized. That is something it took fucking years to get out the heads of people. We don't need this again. Like... bad rep. Oh, I tell you, there's a few other groups in history that had a bad rep. Basically, people who don't believe in it call it conversion fairy, and people who do believe it call it separative therapy he began. No, dude, no, fuck you. Fuck you. It's as bad as the people who are like, toxic masculinity or toxic femininity, or, men teach men not to rape, or evil white people, cis hetero trash, all this bullshit. It's as bad as all that. You are discriminating against people and claiming that people need to be cured for the innate way that they are born that harms basically no one by default. I will never understand why people have an issue with gay people. I will never understand this. Why is this so hard to fucking understand? Why? Like, I'm not, like, I can play devil's advocate with other groups, like, that I support. Like, I can play devil's advocate against trans people. I support the right, but I can understand why people would be a bit confused by that. I can understand, why people can be confused by a bunch of different things. Like, and again, veganism. I'm not a vegan, but I think it is a good life choice. But I can understand why people would be confused by it. But this is... Why are people confused by homosexuality? Why are people so against it? I don't understand it. Like... Some people just like their own gender. Why is this hard to understand? Why is this... I'm sorry. This is like a time portal, dude. This is the exact same shit I used to argue against with people like Venom Fang X and shit like that. It's back in the old days of YouTube, when we had more options and we could do video responses, like direct video responses that would appear under the videos and all this kind of shit. This is the shit I used to argue with for years, until it stopped being as much of a problem, and then the authoritarian bigots on the left started becoming more of a problem, so I started arguing against them because I apply my principles fucking equally. And the fact that we're seeing it again, it's just a pendulum. Dumbasses from either side pushing each other further into a corner. The reasonable people being bashed side by side by their stupid fucking bullshit every time. And I'm regretting using veganism, because veganism is a choice. Transgenderism and different sexualities isn't. That's just something you have. So that's a bad comparison, but it's hard for me to think of things where it's like I support it, but I can play devil's advocate easily, like, which sounds bad against trans people, but I can understand why people are a bit confused by it, taken aback by it, because it's hard to understand. It's one of those things where if you're not trans yourself, you're never going to get it properly, but that doesn't mean that you can't just support the right to be them, but I can't play devil's advocate with homosexuality at all. I don't understand any of it. I can't wrap my head around why anyone would have an issue with this at all, for any reason. I don't get it. I've never been able to understand it. Arguing that the gay lobby was so poisonous and wicked and evil, Yiannopoulos said that he is not convinced by data touted by the interest group or its allies, which undermines conversion therapy. For those people to suggest... Also, just something else. A religious organization demanding fucking data, evidence, is hilarious. For those people to suggest that something... I'm just going to call it conversion, because I don't know what... reprivatate? I actually don't know what that word is. I apologize. I'm dumb. Conversion therapy is somehow damaging to people's self-esteem. It is so laughably preposterous. I don't take it seriously, the author said. Oh, yet you were born wrong. You were born wrong and it needs to change. That how could that possibly to be damaging to somebody's self-esteem? How possibly? Oh, fuck you. Members of the American Psychological Association have been rallying against the practice since 1998. Good! The fact that we still need to rally against this is depressing. Arguing that there is no credible evidence such procedures could change sexual orientation. But when did evidence get in the way of religion? Several other organisations, including NHS England and the British Psychological Study Society and the Royal College of Psychiatrists, published a memorandum of understanding. Fuck me, the English dude. In 2014, describing conversion therapy as unethical and potentially harmful. Makes you proud to be British. Myro compared the reputation associated with the fringe practice to more mainstream conservative elements, adding that the research on it is skewed. Hey, straight people. Pray that pussy away. Play that dick away. You're not allowed to like the opposite sex? That's gross. That's immoral. Fuck. Religion teaches you not to fucking masturbate. That sex before marriage is fucking evil. Religion is a bunch... Like, I'm a prude. I'll freely admit, I'm a prude. A lot of sexual shit makes me uncomfortable, but... Fuck, dude. Go back to the Stone Ages. Keep your religion out of the goddamn bedroom and out of people's personal lives. Let's see. Conversion therapy has a terrible reputation for precisely the reason that a lot of other things associated closely with either the religious right or the nationalist right have a terrible representation. Because they usually have shit ideas. Like, again... the left in recent years have also gone too far and had shit ideas, but that doesn't make this okay. Milo alleged because they've been lied about constantly and strategically for decades. Yeah, okay. I will admit, the right have been lied about. They're out, like, especially in recent years, the amount of times... you get called a Nazi or something for saying something remotely right-wing or something that goes against the extreme left is insane. Politics is insane. It's just two tribalistic mentality people just beating each other with sticks and anyone else who gets in their way in between. It's ridiculous. But, like, it happens. It does. A lot, especially with the media, because the media is extremely left-wing. But don't think your side's above it, because it's not. Both of these sides are full of tribalistic dumbasses that will say and do anything to beat the other side. I call myself left-wing because that's where my politics align, but that is not my tribe. My tribe is human rights, for the most part. And sometimes... that crisscrosses. Quite often that crisscrosses, actually. We don't know very much for sure. We have a relatively clear idea about a lot of it, but here's the thing. Since the 80s and 90s, we haven't really been able to do any research that doesn't conform to the propaganda, because you cannot get funding for anything other than the gay gene, he said. The fuck's the gay gene? So we're opening in a gray area. Look, I've heard people say, like, it's possible that it's a mixture of nature and nurture. You know, that some people are born with elements of them that make them more likely to be gay. And the way they are raised, again, increases the likelihood. But from my point of view, you can't be raised gay. You can't be raised something that is against your nature. You will revert back to your nature at any point. Like, once you're away from that control, you will revert back to what your nature is. Okay, you can improve yourself, but you can't change who you are. Do you know what I mean? Um, if it's something that's in your nature, you cannot completely invert it. Um, so in my opinion, if someone's gay, that they were born that way. If someone's straight, they were born that way. If they were bi, they were born that way. Um, the way their upbringing may change how they deal with it, but that doesn't change what their nature is. And praying to Jesus won't change it either. Flagellating themselves or being born with this disease won't change it either. Quite frankly, I think we should... no, we shouldn't. I'm not doing that. I'm not going down that road. I was going to say we should do it with Christians, but no, there are reasonable Christians out there. You know, members of my family, for example. Well, some of them. They exist. Religion doesn't mean you're stupid. It doesn't mean you're hateful. It simply means that you have a belief system. Doesn't agree with... I don't share it, but you have it. I'm on this depression and anxiety support group app thing. I joined it recently. I was having a bit of a downer. I'm all right now though. And I've spent most of my time just talking with other people and trying to make them feel better. And there's this one guy who's having like a crisis of faith, and he's like, how do I contact God? Like I've never experienced anything like that. And I'm like, all right, this guy doesn't need to hear my atheism. This isn't about me. Okay, my atheism is not going to solve anything here. You know, I'm not going to convince him that there isn't a God. That, like, whatever. A bunch of other comments were like, get away from technology, read the Bible a bunch. And I'm like, look, what do you find that relaxes you? All right, for me, it's nature stuff. The sound of wind blowing through trees, the bird song, crickets chirping, the sound of rain, that kind of thing. Whatever it is that chills you out, find a place that's quiet, that has that, and focus on that thing. Take deep breaths and slowly exhale. I basically told them basics of meditation. Doesn't work for me. Meditation doesn't work for me, but I know people it has done absolutely wonders for. It is literally a way of calming yourself down, focusing and just like getting out of that mental state. It does wonders for some people, and it's not bullshit. It's got spiritual things attached to it, but it's completely reasonable. There's nothing nonsensical about it, but it does have a spiritual feeling to it. So if he can do that, maybe that can be what he's looking for. So I didn't specifically endorse his worldview, but I didn't specifically endorse my worldview, and I helped him out. That was my way of handling that. And yeah, it's it's religious people aren't always bad. There's a lot of good ones out there, but this ain't it, fam. Asked by the post about his views on the nature of sexuality, specifically how much of it is ingrained in a person from birth versus being a choice. Yiannopoulos argued that the jury is still out scientifically. So he didn't want to say either way, but I'm gonna say we all know what he's basically saying there. He doesn't want to put himself in any more hot water and come up with something that you know people would bite him in the ass with. So he's just going to weasel his way out of that one. Anyone who tells you that they know for sure, know the short, precise of homosexuality is lying to you, he said. I mean, that's true. We don't know. I don't really think it's important. I think there are much more important things to study, but we don't know. And that's one of those things, like, do we want to know? Because if we can know, could we predict it? Could we prevent them from existing? That's the line that I go with that. I don't think it's something we really need to know. I don't think it's really that important. As like just like we don't need to know how many heterosexual people are born and what makes a person heterosexual. Nature, you could argue, but homosexual animals exist. You could argue that it's a biological defect that happens occasionally. A lot of people will take offense to that. I'm artistic. That's a defect, but it doesn't make me any less human. It doesn't make my life any less valuable. It doesn't make me any less deserving of respect, a basic human respect and basic human rights. It simply means that I am not typical in how my brain is wired. And I don't see what's offensive by that. I know autism is different from a sexuality, but that's a very personal comparison I gave. Basically saying, okay, if it's a defect, does it really matter? You know, there is more destructive about being autistic than there is about being gay. Having basic issues with social anxiety and general communication and understanding with people is far more impactful than just liking your own gender, unless there's serious discrimination like shit like this that makes people who do have that preference, makes their life a fucking hell for simply existing. So I'm not arguing that artistic people have it worse than gay people. I'm simply arguing that without the constant fucking discrimination, and it was just based on innate difficulties, autistic people would have it worse because they do have this innate kind of... I mean, there's different ways of it manifests, but it's usually some kind of social disconnect or something like that. But with gay people, it's literally like there's no difference between gay people and straight people except the kind of human being, the kind of consenting adult human being. You're not pulling that shit that they go for. That's it. It's like, that's it. Why is that a problem? Scientists don't know, theologians don't know, people don't know, and I don't know, but there are things that we don't know, he continued. The current conscious, scientific, and everything else seems to be that there are people who are born with a greater or less predisposition towards homosexuality. Predisposition. Okay, that's pretty much what I talked about before. Some people may be more likely to be that way, and maybe upbringing affects it, but again, you're not going to change your nature. You can improve yourself, you can work around your nature, but you can't change your nature. And even if you could, why change homosexual? What is so bad about it that needs to be changed? I don't understand. Why is this something that needs to be changed? What we also know for sure is that born this way is not science. It's public relations. It's a lie. Bitch, you're religious. Don't talk to me about science. Milo claims he will be using his new organization to find a clear understanding of the factors influencing human sexuality. I will absolutely be funding that research. We will got like a bit of popcorn at the top of my roof. We will be conducting that research in addition to having a residential program and probably an outpatient program too, he said. That's why I think it's more properly called a center rather than a clinic. I see this as sort of the blend of a research center and treatment. Just the idea of the word treatment being used. That's not really hugely unlike a Planned Parenthood in that respect. Yiannopoulos told the Post, I want to publish research. I help people in real life. Help people, okay. Yiannopoulos ultimately believes the center will help the first generation of gay millennials whose sexuality is inextricably linked and wrapped up with their political positions, values, behavior, and personal identity. Now, I do think there is a certain level of trend following with gender in recent years. I'm not necessarily talking about trans people. Gender identity has become somewhat of a coat one puts on, and then takes off later on down the line. Much like this rainbow-coloured jacket I'm wearing right now. This is my gender. It doesn't feel right anymore. Let's take it off. It mix it with androgynous clothing and coloured hair, and it seems like a trend. To me, it reminds me a lot of emo, which came with goth, emo, punk to a lesser extent, scene kid, which came with it fashion trends, a sense of rebelliousness, and finding oneself and finding one's emotions. With scene kids, it was when this stuff became super fashionable, and it was mixing fashion and trendy people in it as well. To me, that's what it seems like. Now, that's not to say that everyone who discovers their gender identity around that time is faking. It's hard to say. I think there's a level of trend setting, people wanting to be different. Teenagers always do. A level of discovering oneself and finding who you really are. And I think if we push that too much, then that could lead to a lot of regrets. But at the same time, it's super hard to determine like who is legitimate and who's just going through a phase, a trend. You know, I was goth when I was younger. You know, it's that kind of thing. And I'm uncomfortable talking about it because I do. I'm not trans. I'm my gender identity. Whilst I've said before that gender fluid fits, I don't like using it because I feel that's restrictive. I am a man, and by being a man, and the person I am breaking norms by simply existing. I don't need a label to change me into something else. You know. But I do think there is a certain level of trend following with it. But at the same time, we can't just jump on that because we could be ruining legitimate, lives of people who are legitimate with this. It's really fucking hard, and I don't think any of us can really nail it down. So yeah. I happen to think that trying to unravel that, unwind it, and rescue people from its noble cause, he explained. I also think, is a noble cause. I also think that you can set it against the extraordinary evil of the gay lobby that encourages this, monolithic, ludicrous form of behavior that says to people that if you want to find love, you have to behave in a way that reduces individuals to stereotypes. Not quite sure what he's saying this, unless he's talking about feminism, where it's like all white people are evil and part of a corrupt system, all men are evil, part of a corrupt system, all women are strong but also completely fragile and incapable of agency, and that kind of thing. Maybe that's what he's talking about, but I'm not sure. It's not for women, probably, he admitted, but there are enormous number of men out there who need and want this. Okay, here's another thing. It is far more acceptable in society for a woman to be gay than a man. Every woman I've met has come out bi. Everyone. It's trendy at this point. It's applauded. A man being gay, a man being bi, well, male sexuality is not exactly appreciated in any shape or form, so they tend to get a lot more crap. Not that I'm saying lesbian women, gay women, bi women, whatever, don't get the same crap. They will from people, but things do tend to be a little bit worse for men. And this, to me, is just proving it. Christians, those Christian old men, they like those gay women videos. They don't want to change that, but they do want to change. They do want to change the men because that's disgusting. I'm extremely salty right now. I'm just bullshitting at this point because I'm angry. Yiannopoulos told the Post he also hopes to rehabilitate the PR surrounding the practice of using religion as a tool to rewire one's sexuality. You can keep pure religion away from my wires. Thank you very much. I like who I am, and I'm sure, and everyone who simply has a basic sexuality that doesn't actually affect harm anyone, and is only between consenting adults, you can stay away from their wires as well, bitch. Fucking give your tongue a snip snip. I mean, here's the thing, like, I'm completely for freedom of speech. He should have a right to say this kind of thing. I don't remotely agree with it, but he should have a right to say it. But I'm still gonna fucking rip him apart for it. My aspiration is to rebrand, revitalize, rehabilitate, and what they call conversion therapy for 2 new generations in the same way that I obliterated feminism for 2 generations. Feminism is an ideology that behaves much like religion, which is why I have a problem with it. And one of the reasons I have a problem with this is because fundamentally the actions of these groups routinely spreads hate, discrimination, and goes against human fucking rights. It's why I have a problem with feminism, and it's why I have a problem with this. Because it's dying and horribly mangled, ridiculed, and prosecuted industry. It's an industry in crisis, but it's an industry whose addressable market has never been larger, he said, referring to his past critique of third wave feminism as the main topic of a number of campus lectures he gave whilst working at Breitbart. Milo said last week he had demoted his husband to housemate. I really hope he wasn't in love with Milo. I really hope, because that hurts, dude. If his husband was actually in love with him, and that was more than just a marriage of convenience or some status marriage or something like that, that is gonna fucking suck. And was living his life sodomy free. Asked by the Post about the status of his marriage, Yiannopoulos explained that the union was not recognized by the church, could now be described as one of brothers. Oh, Milo, get help, dude. Get help. Get away from the church. Be your own person. I don't give a fuck about your politics. We can disagree, whatever, but get help, dude. Get away from the fucking church. I swear to Christ, get away from the fucking church. Are you fucking serious? I can't even imagine what he psychologically must be going through, and what his ex-husband must be going through. Oh, sweet mother of God. The church teaches that if marriage turns out to have been entered into an era, that the couple should live together as brother and sister. Brothers is the perfect description for what we have become, and while I won't say he's thrilled, he understands sodomy will never be the basis of our friendship in the first place. It was never the basis of our friendship in the first place. That's painful, dude. I'm pissed off with him. This pisses me off beyond belief. But I also kind of feel sorry for him, because he is another victim of this bullshit. You know, he's not the first gay guy to promote this shit. You know, what was it? Something Simmons? Or is something... I remember the Southpaw thing is completely heterosexual, you know. And he's singing it like this flamboyantly, you know, like stereotypically gay way. It's completely heterosexual, like that. It's like, yeah, okay, mate. Just be yourself, dude. There's nothing wrong with the sexuality, you know. I don't. And this isn't coming from a personal place. Like, for people who have never been here, I'm not gay myself. I care about my fellow human being. you know, and I've never understood what the big deal is with gay relationships. I don't get it. I don't get it. I'm not virtue signaling. I'm honest on this shit. I legitimately don't understand it. Never have, never will. To me, they're exactly the same as straight people. You know, they just have a different sexuality. That's it. Why is this hard to understand? You know, bi people, they like both. Straight people, they like the opposite. You know, gay people, they like the same. Why is this hard to understand? Why is this difficult? This is before the alphabet soup. This is where stuff got really convoluted, labeling every minute detail and possible personality quirk. This is basic as fuck. Why is this hard to understand? Why is this something that needs to be fixed? Because your religion says so. If there's anything that needs to be cured, if there's anything that needs to be fixed, it is that cancer on society. This has been Fallon Hot. Pretty fucking annoyed. Yeah. Get help, dude. Get help. I hope this thing falls under, because I hate the idea of, like, parents sending people to this place to go through this shit, to learn how to hate themselves. Whatever, man.